Hey guys, this is John from Noble Salute Fencing. This weekend while attending the Gulf Coast Renaissance Fair and Pirate Festival, I ran into Gersten and I's friends from the chivalric tournament, Josh and David, who were hosting a demo for historical European combat and allowing people who wanted to try things out to step up and get a taste of the action. Since we were already well acquainted, David and I decided to do some dagger sparring, which is always a ton of fun with that guy, and later in the day I came back to do some saber trades with him, and this is how all that went. As usual, I like to give a little bit of context. With the dagger sparring, it wasn't meant to be taken all too seriously. He and I were just kind of going back and forth and doing a little bit of touch sparring. He knows I love to dagger spar, and none of my boys in my club particularly enjoy dagger sparring, so I look for every opportunity to get into it, and David's just a ton of fun to knife fight with. When it comes to the saber sparring, David actually doesn't have any direct experience with saber fencing, so it was kind of a first try for him. He does have swordsmanship experience in general, so obviously that lended itself during our sparring, but this was actually his first time sparring specifically in saber. And I have been a little bit out of practice since Gersten and I's other saber snapped. I haven't been able to fight a whole lot of saber, so you're looking at two people who have a general idea on how to fight with the weapon, but haven't done it very recently. So it was a ton of fun. I think the trades ended up looking pretty great. After the dagger sparring, my friend and I decided to go off and enjoy the other festivities and go to the marketplace and whatnot. Toward the end of our stay at the Renaissance Fair, David and I decided we wanted to do some saber trades as well since he got a new saber. So I went to my car, got geared up, grabbed my saber, and came back and we got into it. This one probably would have been pretty easy to avoid if I had just brought the sword a little bit to my left, but I did not, and so he was able to get a pretty decent hit off to my face. This is actually a dissect technique that I just use in saber quite a bit. It's called a Weckerhau. I make it look like I'm going in for a cut, and then I turn it into a thrust. You usually are supposed to aim for the chest area, but because of how far away he was and how much distance I had to cover, I ended up getting more on his tummy with that thrust. It wasn't the most deep kind of thrust, but it was pretty sufficient. So this one was pretty nice on my end. I was able to catch his blade as it was above my head and turn it into a low cut. I did tell him I was going to try not to go for his leg so much since he knows I have a tendency to do that. I did get his just above the knee, but it wasn't so bad, so I didn't feel too bad about it. This was an excellent cut on his end. He actually, I went for my Weckerhau again, he saw it coming and was able to avoid it while getting a really good cut off to my head. This one was a bit of quickness on my end. I was able to get to the back of his hand with my saber as he went in, and then his blade ended up hitting the back of my saber on the retreat, which saved my leg there. So it was an okay trade. It wasn't my favorite. I really hate to get snipes off, but you know, sometimes they happen. So this is one of those pretty convoluted trades. I think we called it a double at the time just because it was a little all over the place. With his initial strike, I just kind of dodged back with my head a little bit, and then I parried his second strike. Whenever I went in to strike at him, it kind of caught on his wrist as he went to stop my blade and put it under his armpit. But then I was able to slice off. His thrust missed my chest. I cut in at him. He cut in at me. It was a little just everything everywhere. But it was, I think it looked pretty entertaining. It felt like a slap, but I called it. So this is a Polish saber technique to my understanding. The idea is to get their blade moving by rotating my blade around my head and just kind of apply a lot of pressure. With the first one, I got his blade moved. With the second one, though, he was able to strike my arm, and in that same beat of time, I was able to bring the blade back around and strike him in the chest area. So it was another weird double, but I decided to keep it in because I thought it was interesting to watch. This one's just really good blade work on David's part. I should have gone into a hanging guard to parry this, but instead I guess I decided I was going to try to strike out at him, and I went right over his blade. He ended up getting my wrist. And then when I went to parry the second strike, he was able to get the top of my wrist, so I just got outplayed on that one.
Oh, nice.
So this right here showcases why I like fighting David. He's very aggressive and very good at overrunning, and I just think that's very exciting in a trade. I think I turned this one around quite a bit. I was able to dodge and parry a decent number of his strikes. At one point he flatted my mask. I was able to get a decent slice off on his ribs with my blade. He got a cut off on my arm as I brought my blade back around and struck his head. We weren't keeping score that day. I think that would be considered a double in a tournament, but it was just pretty exciting to participate in, and I'm pretty sure it was exciting for people to watch.
I appreciate it.
This is the final trade of the video, and there's not really a whole lot to say. It was just him engaging, me retreating and parrying, and then I was able to get a little wrist snipe off, and that was able to end that trade right there. Thanks again to Josh and David for having me. I didn't plan on fighting that day. I was just kind of luck that I had all of my gear in the back of my car that day. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to check out our content. If you liked it, please feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more content from us, please subscribe. We try to post on the regular, so if you're mostly interested in seeing a decent number of sparring videos or some occasional just for fun videos, we got the content for you. So thank you so much again, and as always, we'll see you next time.